You're listening to 37th in the World, the official podcast of the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs, the flagship academic publication of Georgetown University's Walsh School of Foreign Service. On 37th in the World, we dive into crucial global trends and speak directly with experts working on issues ranging from security to the economy, technology to society, and more. In today's episode, we dive into the inequities that individuals with albinism face in Africa with Mr. Boniface Massah. Mr. Massah is the Executive Director of the Africa Albinism Network and a Commissioner on the Malawi Human Rights Commission. All right, Mr. Massah, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
To begin, I'm wondering if you could provide some context on the situation for individuals with albinism in Africa. Specifically, what social or cultural perceptions cause discrimination against individuals with albinism, and what types of inequities does this population face?
People with albinism, let me start by defining we are human beings. It's just a genetic condition that results from both male and female parents. So most of us, the parents are black, but then they give birth to a person with albinism, which is a genetic condition resulting to skin being white due to lack of melanin, but also we have white hair or blonde hair, and also we have low vision. If we look at albinism, in particular in African setting, where the majority of the population is black, that's where the problem starts. So the misconception, the misunderstanding start right from our homes when a child is born with albinism. Because the big question is, are you from a white person or from a black person? Because the general expectation of the society around us is when a woman is pregnant, then they expect to have a black baby. That leads to one misunderstanding in the family. We have seen a lot of divorces. Then we also look at the case of not being looked as human enough. People feel like because we have a white skin, we are weak. So that leads to now the harmful practices where people with albinism across Africa have been targeted for ritual killings, superstitious beliefs, and body parts harvesting. We are looking at a life of a person with albinism. From birth to death, we are being reduced to nothing. From the maternity ward where people don't understand who we are, we've moved into a society where now there's a lot of name calling, bullying, and even physical killing. And then the worst part is even when we die, people still believe that they can go and rob our graveyard and exhume our body and even use our bones for ritual practices. But suffice to say, the context that we have been working with as persons with albinism is to define ourselves as people with a disability.
Thank you so much for sharing that context. And I'm wondering specifically, could you speak more about some of the health issues that individuals with albinism face, especially, for example, with climate change and how that might cause increased exposure to ultraviolet radiation?
Because of albinism, which results into lack of melanin, majority of people with albinism are dying of skin cancer. So I'll look at skin cancer for people with albinism as a silent killer. Although we have been focusing on physical killings where people are chasing us, killing us, but cancer generally has killed majority of persons with albinism across Africa. There's limited access to sunscreen, and it's not even affordable. It's available. In most African countries, it is very expensive. You spend $15, $25 for a bottle of sunscreen. But for us as people with albinism, we need to use sunscreen every day for the rest of our life. And that becomes so challenging to sustain. Majority of people with albinism, they develop cancer in the early stages or signs of cancer, but then the health system may not respond. Limited access to dermatology services, hospitals that cannot even treat that cancer. So that advancement of the cancer then leads to majority of us die with skin cancer. Because we can't see very well, we go to a primary school where the whole day we are in the sun. We don't have a hat, we don't have glasses, we don't have monoculars. All this leads to majority of people with albinism not accessing the right to health. Specifically for cancer, there's a lot that we need to do. And we know cancer is manageable if it's detected. When a child is born with albinism, they need to understand it's a genetic condition. How am I going to raise my child with albinism? How am I going to protect them from severe sun damage? How do I apply sunscreen? How do I avoid the sun?
Thank you so much. And so, in your opinion, what types of initiatives and policies are necessary moving forward to protect the rights of individuals with albinism in Africa?
We are aware of the AU action plan that was developed and adopted by AU African countries. It has very strong pillars of health, right to education, right to life, also prevention measures and protection measures. In terms of policy approach, our angle has been we need to hold our authorities, our government accountable. There must be adequate measures to prevent skin cancer, adequate measures for inclusive education, adequate measures for protection of persons with albinism, but also economic empowerment, because we live in a society where we need to be living independently. So I think our focus in terms of policy approach is working with the structures like the African Union, working with structures like the UN. At national level, we have been also focusing working directly with governments so that they can develop national action plans specifically to protect and promote the rights of people with albinism, which has worked well in most African countries. I think we have done that support to over 8 African countries. The other important work is ensuring that the organization of persons with albinism are empowered and they know their rights. So that has also been something that we have worked closely with over 200 albinism groups in Africa. Recently, we have seen African countries adopting the Africa Disability Protocol. So the Africa Disability Protocol really provide a very good platform for the specific needs of persons with albinism. It has defined harmful practices. It has helped us a lot, specifically mention the killings of people with albinism. It brings in a very good legal instrument for us to engage government, engage human rights treaty bodies, report cases of human rights violation, but also importantly is to ensure that we end these crimes against persons with albinism.
And lastly, I'm wondering what kind of role can the international community play in helping to advocate for the rights of individuals with albinism?
Yeah, I think for the international community, there should be affirmative action for inclusion and a deeper understanding of our specific needs as persons with albinism. We are also looking at how do we strengthen groups of persons with albinism. We now talk about leaving no one behind, but this is a minority group that is already left behind. There must be intentional support by the international community, specifically targeting persons with albinism. The other aspect that we do a lot as the Africa Albinism Network is to start looking at the people like me, my friends across Africa, women with albinism as human rights defenders. Yes, we are fighting for our own rights and the rights of others, but we are also at risk. It doesn't mean because I'm speaking in this capacity or I'm standing in this capacity, I cannot be killed. I can be targeted by this syndicate. So the risks are very high, but we still thank God that we stand up and speak. And the international community then can come in to say, how do we strengthen the small population, protect them? How do we work with human rights defenders? How do we amplify their voice? Beyond their limited resources, we can provide a platform where their voice can be heard. I think for me, if we reach that level where we see a lot of visibility, self-representation of people with albinism, then I'll be very satisfied that yes, the international community has really played a bigger role.
Thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing so much useful knowledge about this really important topic. Thank you, Mr. Massah, for meeting with me today to discuss the discrimination faced by individuals with albinism in Africa. In general, individuals with albinism confront stigmatization and targeted killings due to misperceptions around the genetic condition. A lack of education and access to sun protection puts individuals with albinism at heightened risk of skin cancer. Future policies should focus on promoting the rights of individuals with albinism, protect those individuals from discriminatory attacks, and empower albinism advocacy organizations. The international community also has a role to play in holding African nations accountable to their human rights commitments, such as the African Disability Protocol. This was 37th in the World, the official podcast of the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs. Please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment and rating on whichever streaming platform you use. To support the podcast, you can click the link in this podcast description that says Support the Show. To read other insightful interviews and articles, please check out gajia.georgetown.edu.
This was 37th in the World, the official podcast of the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs. Please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment and rating on whichever streaming platform you use. To support the podcast, you can click the link in this podcast's description that says support the show. To read other insightful interviews and articles, please check out gajia.georgetown.edu.